In 1936, a railroad fireman in Altoona, Pennsylvania, slipped 8 dimes off every pay envelope into a tobacco tin behind the pantry wall. He earned $32 a week. Nobody on his block knew. By 1958, he owned his house outright, 2 rental shacks, and $1,200 in war bonds. The trick he used is number 20. Number 14 is why your great-grandparents resoled the same work boots 6 times. Number 1 has been a federal violation since the spring of 1933. The banks would prefer you forgot everyone. They were not secrets. They were Tuesday afternoon at the kitchen table for a whole generation. Hit subscribe, because what follows is worth more than any financial advisor will tell you for free. Number 20. The pay envelope budget. Through the 1930s, your grandfather had no checking account. He carried home cash in a paper envelope on Friday, and his wife sorted it into smaller envelopes labeled rent, coal, doctor, food. The 1934 Bureau of Labor Statistics survey tracked the average urban family running a household this way on $1,524 a year. When an envelope went empty, spending stopped. Then, in 1950, Frank McNamara invented Diners Club at Major's Cabin Grill in Manhattan, and Bank America dumped 60,000 unsolicited cards into Fresno in September 1958. The math went invisible. Open YNAB or Good Budget and rebuild the envelopes inside your phone tonight. The envelope did not disappear. It was just digitized by the people it used to defeat. Number 19. The Morris Plan Loan. In 1910, a Norfolk lawyer named Arthur Morris opened a bank that lent working men $100 on 2 co-signers of like character. No collateral. A welder borrowed $50 for tools at 17%, while loan sharks on the same block charged $500. By 1931, there were 109 Morris Plan banks serving 800,000 customers. The Bank Holding Company Act of 1956 let commercial lenders swallow the model whole, and revolving credit replaced the cosigner with a 3-digit score generated in a Plano office. A self-help federal credit union account or a mission asset fund lending circle still runs the same trick today. Character used to be collateral. Now it is a word on a coffee mug. Number 18. The Christmas Club. In December 1909, Merkel Landis at Carlisle Trust Company in Pennsylvania opened the first one. 350 customers each put 25 cents in a passbook every Friday. 50 weeks at $1 paid out $50 on December 1st. By 1959, 13 million Americans were running the same loop, because money you could not touch was money you could not spend. Credit card statements arrived in suburban kitchens in the late 1960s and replaced the question your grandmother used to ask. Nobody now asks how much they have saved. They ask how much they can borrow. An Ally savings bucket labeled December does the same job for free. Pay Christmas before Christmas, not in February, at 24%. Number 17. Industrial life insurance, the nickel-a-week policy. By 1931, there were 81 million such policies in force in the United States. A Metropolitan Life debit agent walked your great-grandmother's block every Tuesday and collected a nickel toward a $100 burial fund. One policy for every adult breathing. That scale built the Marble headquarters on Madison Avenue and funded 3 of the largest companies in the country. Louis Brandeis exposed the markups in a 1906 Collier's piece. But the racket survived until Social Security old age and survivor benefits in 1939 made the door-to-door nickel obsolete. A cheap term policy from Haven Life, paired with a 401k match, covers the same risk for less today. The 5-cent grief insurance is gone. The grief is not. Number 16. Fraternal benefit societies. Around 1920, your great-grandfather had 1 chance in 3 of belonging to one: the Modern Woodmen of America, the Knights of Pythias, or a black mutual aid order like the Independent Order of St. Luke. $2 a year bought a contract physician on retainer. $5 a week in sick pay, and a $100 widow's benefit. Maggie Lena Walker grew her Richmond order from $31 in 1899 to $400,000 in assets by 1924. The American Medical Association ran a 20-year campaign against lodge practice. State regulators forced level premium reserves the orders could not carry. A GoFundMe for a co-worker's surgery, or the ethnic credit union your neighbor's father started in his garage, covers the same ground. The lodge survives. The lodge hall is now a website. Number 15. Local scrip and wooden money. On December 5, 1931, the Citizens Bank of Tenino, Washington, failed and froze every account. The Chamber of Commerce printed money on slices of Sitka spruce 1/80th of an inch thick. 8 wood issues totaling $10,000 circulated as legal tender in the county. Economist Irving Fisher counted roughly 400 American towns issuing their own currency by 1932. Then, in March of the following year, the Emergency Banking Act passed Congress in 8 hours, and the Federal Reserve quietly buried local money. Berkshires in western Massachusetts still work the same way. 95 cents in dollars buys one at Lee Bank. The town can print its own money. The town has just forgotten it is allowed to. Number 14. Repair instead of replace. A pair of work boots could be resold 6 times in 1935 at 50 cents a resolé, while new men's shoes from a mail order catalog cost $1.98. The 1930 census counted 110,000 cobblers in the country, one for every 1,200 Americans. Knife sharpening was a dime, watch cleaning $1, a vacuum tube for the parlor radio 50 cents at the drugstore. In 1932, a New York broker named Bernard London published a pamphlet called Ending the Depression Through Planned Obsolescence. His complaint was that Americans kept their cars and radios too long. The Digital Millennium Copyright Act of 1998 made firmware repair a federal crime. iFixit and Martine Postma's Repair Cafe network of 2,500 chapters still rebuild the trade. The cobbler is dead. The right to fix what you own is still in court. First pattern break. Here is where things get interesting. The tricks so far have been about money. How to budget it, how to save it, how to borrow it, how to print it. The next batch is about houses, where your grandparents lived, how they paid for the roof, how they kept it. And this is where the pattern shows itself. Every single way a working family used to build wealth through shelter has been zoned out, regulated out, or financialized out of existence. Your grandfather did not need a real estate agent. Your grandfather did not need a 30-year mortgage. Your grandfather bought a house 3 different ways on a Saturday afternoon. Number 13. Self-help cooperatives. The Unemployed Citizens League of Seattle organized in July 1931. Within 8 months, it operated 22 food commissaries on donated land and recalled the mayor. In Oakland, the Unemployed Exchange Association ran a foundry, a soap factory, and a print shop on labor credits. 1 hour of work was 100 points regardless of skill. 500,000 Americans across 29 states traded that way by the middle of the decade. The Works Progress Administration started writing cash checks in 1935, and as one Oakland member put it, the cash flow killed the exchange. Rebecca Rockefeller and Liesl Clark started the Buy Nothing project on Bainbridge Island in 2013, and it runs on the same accounting. We did not lose the skill. We rented it back from Amazon. Number 12. Penny auctions. In the spring of 1933, American sheriffs foreclosed on more than 200,000 farms. Iowa wheat had collapsed from $2 a bushel to 40 cents. The Farmers Holiday Association under Milo Reno ran 76 penny auctions in 15 states in 2 months. Neighbors mobbed the courthouse steps, bid a nickel for a tractor, 3 cents for 40 acres, and handed the deed back to the family. On April 27th of that year, 600 farmers dragged Judge Charles Bradley out of his Les Mars, Iowa courtroom and put a noose around his neck. The Agricultural Adjustment Act started writing checks 2 weeks later, and the movement evaporated. Right to Counsel ordinances in New York and Cleveland and the Occupy Our Homes campaigns of 2011 run the same play. 600 neighbors at a courthouse still works. There are just fewer neighbors who know each other. Number 11. Taking in boarders. The 1930 census counted 3.8 million boarders in 2.6 million American households, 9% of every home in the country. A widow in St. Paul rented her upstairs room for $4 a week with breakfast. The spare bedroom carried part of the mortgage in every working-class neighborhood from Pittsburgh to Pasadena. In November 1926, the Supreme Court decided Euclid v. Ambler Realty, and a decade later, the Federal Housing Administration defined a dwelling as a unit with a private kitchen and a private bath. Take in a boarder, lose your loan. California's Home Act of 2022 and the accessory dwelling unit boom on the West Coast rebuild the same upstairs room. Your grandmother's spare room paid the bills. Yours is staged for an open house. Number 10. The Sears Kit House. From 1908 to 1940, Sears Roebuck sold roughly 70,000 mail-order homes across 447 floor plans. The Valonia model ran $1,465 in 1928. A railroad boxcar pulled into your town with 30,000 numbered pieces of cypress and pine and a 75-page manual. Your great-grandfather and 4 men from the lodge had a house up in 90 days. Sears carried the mortgage from 1911 until late 1933, then wrote off $11 million in defaults and quit. Levittown opened in 1947 with 17,000 identical houses, and federal mortgage policy pushed all credit towards stick-built tract suburbs. Boxable out of Las Vegas and the Allwood Cabin. Kits shipping from Amazon do the same thing today. The mail-order house never went away. It just calls itself a tech startup. Number 9. The layaway plan. Through the 1930s, Montgomery Ward, S.S. Kresge, and J.C. Penney all ran the same trick. 10% down on a winter coat, 6 weekly payments of $1.50, and the store held the coat in the back room until the final Saturday. 0 interest, no credit check, no bureau report. Your name on an index card in a green metal file. James Cash Penney's profits rose through the worst years of the decade because he kept the system running. Walmart killed its program in September 2006, and the replacement was Affirm and Klarna and Afterpay, which priced the loan from 0 to 36% and report your stumbles to a credit bureau in Atlanta. Open a savings account labeled Gift instead of clicking the For Payment button at checkout. Layaway said pay first, take later. Buy now, pay later said the quiet part out loud. Number 8. The Sheriff's Sale. By spring 1933, American homes were foreclosing at $1,000 a day. 1 in 10 houses in the country was owned by a bank that did not want it. Property tax delinquency hit 26% nationally and 63% in Atlantic City. A man with $500 cash could bid against a tired bank lawyer in Cleveland and own a brick row house by lunchtime. The Homeowners Loan Corporation refinanced 1,017,000 mortgages with the first 15-year amortizing loan in American history. Then it drew the redlining maps of 239 cities that still shape neighborhood wealth. Auction.com and Hubzu still list those courthouse steps, but Blackstone's Invitation Homes scooped 200,000 single-family houses off the post-2008 wreckage first. The hedge funds learned the trick faster than you did. Second pattern break. Now here is something the history books leave out. Every trick on this list was a way to keep value inside the household. Everyone was killed by an institution that needed the value outside the household, in a fee, an interest payment, a subscription, a service contract. Your grandmother did not have lower expenses because she was tougher. She had lower expenses because the extraction industries that take 90 cents of every dollar you earn had not been invented yet. The cobbler became a Nike shoe. The lodge became a health insurance premium. The boarding house became an Airbnb listing. None of this is conspiracy. All of it is on the public record. Number 7. Piecework at the kitchen table. In 1937, a woman in a Lower East Side tenement could sew silk dresses for 5 to 8 cents an hour. Bundles arrived twice a week from a man in a truck. The shop floor minimum that year was 33 cents. Magazine ads in Popular Mechanics promised $5 to $25 a week for addressing envelopes at home, and most of those were scams the Federal Trade Commission was already chasing. On June 25, 1938, Franklin Roosevelt signed the Fair Labor Standards Act, and the Department of Labor in 1941 banned industrial homework outright in 7 trades. Most of those bans are still on the books today. Amazon Mechanical Turk pays $2 an hour for image labeling, and DoorDash treats every driver as an independent contractor. Piecework did not die, it just got a logo. Number 6. The streetcar nickel. In 1929, the average American city dweller took 250 streetcar rides a year at a 5-cent fare locked in by 1890s. Franchise contracts, 17,000 miles of urban rail, moved more passengers than the automobile. The math worked because the operator owned the track, the wires, and the power station. A holding company called National City Lines, capitalized by General Motors, Firestone, and Standard Oil of California, bought 100 streetcar systems across 45 cities and converted everyone to diesel buses. They were convicted in 1949 under the Sherman Antitrust Act. GM was fined $5,000. Treasurer H.C. Grossman was personally fined $1. E-bike sales surpassed electric car sales in 2022, and the Kansas City streetcar has run free since 2016. The nickel fare cost less than coffee. The replacement costs $9,000 a year per driver. Number 5. The feed sack dress. By the early 1940s, roughly 3 million American women and children wore clothing sewn from the printed cotton bags that Purina chicken feed and gold medal flour shipped in. A 100-pound bag was 36 by 44 inches, almost exactly a yard of cotton. A dress took 2 or 3 matching sacks, and your great-grandmother organized swap parties to assemble the set. DuPont rolled out nylon in May 1940 and Dacron polyester in 1953. Then Shane out of Nanjing in 2008 priced 47 items of clothing below the cost of 1 feed sack. ThreadUp out of San Francisco and Patagonia Worn Wear since 2013 still extend the old logic. The fabric is not the point. Knowing how to use it is. Number 4. The Send a Dime chain letter. In April 1935, the Denver Post Office handled 165,000 chain letters in a single day. The scheme started in a Denver basement. Send a dime to the top name on a list of 5, add your name to the bottom, send 5 copies. The theoretical payout was 15,625 dimes against a median family income of $1,160 a year. Postmaster General James Farley declared chain letters a non-mailable lottery under what is now 18 U.S. Code 1302, and the craze was dead by 1936. Every Blessing Loom Facebook scheme the state attorneys general prosecute today operates under the same statute. The dime is bigger now. The pyramid is the same shape. Number 3. Home brewing and the Volstead loophole. Section 29 of the 1919 Volstead Act let every household legally produce 200 gallons a year of non-intoxicating cider and fruit juice. The Bureau of Internal Revenue quietly gutted the word non-intoxicating in 1920. California wine grape tonnage doubled from 1.25 million tons in 1920 to 2.5 million by 1927, because home wine was legal. Your grandparents pressed grapes in a kitchen crock and called it juice. Home beer sat in a grey zone until October 14, 1978, when Jimmy Carter signed House Resolution 1337. Distilling spirits remains a federal felony under 26 U.S. Code 5601, with penalties that include forfeiture of the land the still sits on. 9,000 American craft breweries trace directly to that signature. The beer is freedom. The whiskey is revenue protection. Number 2. The front yard garden, raw milk, and the home birth. In 1932, Detroit Mayor Frank Murphy authorized 6,600 thrift gardens on 400 acres of vacant city land. A midwife-attended home birth ran $5 to $15. Ball Brothers. Glass of Muncie, Indiana produced 54% of America's canning jars in 1939, and your great-grandmother put up 200 quarts of tomatoes in August. A mother of 6 in Oak Park, Michigan, was charged in 2011 with a misdemeanor carrying 93 days in jail for planting vegetables in her front yard. Selling a glass of raw milk across a state line has been a federal violation of 21 CFR 1240.61 since September 9, 1987. Florida's Senate Bill 82 of 2019 legalized front yard vegetable gardens statewide, and Iowa and North Dakota legalized direct raw milk sales in 2023. The fight is not over, it just looks like a zoning meeting. Number 1. The numismatic loophole. On April 5, 1933, Franklin Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102. Every American had until May 1st to surrender gold coins and bullion to a Federal Reserve Bank at $20.67 per troy ounce. Penalty for hoarding was $10,000 and 10 years in federal prison. Section 2B exempted coins of recognized special value to collectors. On January 30, 1934, the Gold Reserve Act revalued gold to $35 an ounce overnight, a 69% devaluation that handed the Treasury $2.8 billion at the expense of every citizen who had just turned in coins. Private gold ownership did not become legal again until Gerald Ford signed Public Law 93-373 on December 31, 1974. SPDR gold shares launched in 2004, and Bitcoin learned the lesson by building something the Treasury cannot recall in 30 days. The deflation hedge is older than the dollar that replaced it. These 20 tricks were not magic. They were not even clever. They were envelopes, cosigners, numbered pieces of pine, slices of spruce. The whole generation pointed everyone at the same target. A paid-off house, a buried parent, a child who could read. They funneled every nickel they did not spend into one outcome, which was independence from the bank, the boss, and the landlord. You can keep scrolling and pay the fee somebody else now collects. Or you can pick one trick from this list and run it for 30 days. Open a separate savings account this week, label it for one specific thing, and put your first dollar in tonight.